It's Monday, May 21st, 2012. You're listening to iCannabis Radio Show on iCannabis.com, and it's The Cure with Amy and Georgia. Tonight we're going to hear from Greg Daurer, who's going to give us a nice history lesson on some of the ironies and just stupid things throughout the years in the Denver cannabis scene. Really some funny stuff, so hang in there. We'll have to show you some of this stuff. Greg pulled some good stuff.
As always, he's really fun.
Yeah, and this is a modification of what we've seen previously from him like 10 years ago. He gave this presentation up at Fort Collins, I remember going, and it's fantastic, some of this stuff he's dug up. This week's sponsors are Mile High Wellness, No-Do Urban Garden Supply, Edson Mayton and Matt's LLP, Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, Mile High Wellness, Medical Marijuana 101, and Run on Grass. But before we drag Greg in here, and as we wait for Amy, we'll go over some of the news, and it's kind of another weird day. Not a heck of a lot happened recently, but we can catch you up on some of the news that's taken place since last week. Specifically, two major things. Many of you who tune into any of the iCannabis radio shows heard us ranting and raving over the last month to maybe even 3 months about some of the dreaded bills we faced through the legislature. And somehow throughout all that, what we wanted to pass passed, and what we didn't want to pass didn't pass, despite the fact that the governor held a special session last week allegedly to mainly consider the civil unions bill, which immediately died in committee. Boo hiss, boo hiss.
Ridiculous.
And let me get on a sidetrack, because the only good thing that might have come out of this special session, despite the fact these bills died, they wasted huge amounts of taxpayers' money.
Huge amounts.
Senator King introduced this DUID bill, and it got killed both in the Senate, because there was a filibuster, which means the Republicans talked all night, and there wasn't time to hear other things. But then luckily the governor called a special session, and for whatever reason he threw the DUID bill back on the table. And then on top of that, some nice representatives of ours reattached the medical marijuana funding bill, which would fund our medical marijuana enforcement division, because they're kind of in a hole right now because they have no money until July 1st when new fees get paid, and they think they will get money again. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, so they attached that, so we had that float back to life, despite it having been killed not once but twice. But then in the midst of all that, the whole thing made no sense. I mean, we had a Republican introduce they could have killed the civil union bill immediately in committee. They didn't. Right. They did it languish. They then decide they want it to die after all, and they kill 30 bills in the process, which then causes us to reopen for 3 days and waste $30,000 to $50,000 a day doing this to have absolutely nothing pass.
It's ridiculous. Can I just, I have a sort of a little bit of an aside. So on Sexpot Radio, for those of you that are not friends with them on Facebook, haven't liked their Sexpot Radio Facebook page, you should. It's fantastic. And they pose a lot of interesting questions. And I pose this question to you, Warren, as my husband. So one of the things that Jenny Cush posed is, do you need a piece of paper to feel married? Do you need something from the government to feel married? Do you feel like our approval from the state of Florida where we got married was important to our relationship?
No.
Do you feel like now, looking back, that would you have thought about not legally getting married because other people can't? I mean, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie claim that the reason why that they're not married is that they won't actually get married until everyone has the ability to get legally married.
Well, I guess that's great and all, because Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt can talk and people give a crap what they say. But I'm not sure if people would give a crap that you and I don't have a piece of paper from the government, and that's our protest. Because, I mean, how would anybody even know? Above and beyond all that, we live in a state where common law marriages occur by basically us driving home together.
Sharing bills together, claiming that we're married is enough in Colorado to be considered common law married.
It is one of the easiest states to be considered common law married in. So,
But that's not true for same-sex couples.
No, it isn't. That's what would be interesting. And I haven't looked at the common law marriage statute in years, and examined whether or not it says husband and wife. I assume it does.
I recall reading, and my recollection could be fuzzy, but I recall reading, if you call yourself husband and wife in Colorado, you are husband and wife. I recall those words, but it could have just been that was my interpretation of those words. I just found the question to be really interesting, that you're right, no one would care about you and I protesting, but we're afforded some kind of special rights because biblically we can, or it's okay in the Bible for us to get married, or because we can naturally produce children in the regular old-fashioned way. I mean, I just don't understand it, and it's so ridiculous to me. I mean, I felt married to you before we ever walked down the aisle.
Well, we probably were common law married. But so is that,
because we lived together in sin.
Are they going to be talking about that more tomorrow night?
They are going to be talking about that, as well as some of the other questions that they have posed this week. For example, what gets you in the mood late at night? That was a question.
Yeah, and well, what they'd have to define late at night for you, because that's like 8:45, right?
Well, here's what happens.
9.
Yeah, I was going to say, here's what happens. I mean, no offense or anything, honey, but I avoid the things that get you in the mood late at night, because not because I don't love having sex with my husband, but late at night.
Yeah, at 8:45.
At 8:45.
And
early
so
in the morning.
Anyway,
you're done with this.
Yeah, I mean, that's their show.
Right.
Is your purpose to go through their stuff?
No, it was just an interesting aside, based on the civil unions bill.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen with the Med? They'll get a reallocation when the new fiscal year starts.
Well, allegedly.
Yeah,
after provided cities, locals clear the old licenses, which would then allow for new licenses, and then they'd ask you to all pay that. And
I mean, they're so far below the costs that they have projected and that they needed. I mean, they collected $600,000 over the last few months, and that still isn't enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, and things have dragged on, and their offices aren't cheap, and it's a lot of. I mean, you still have 17, 18 people, but I haven't seen like FTEs in terms of actual data from those guys yet. And I know it was budgeted, though, on a much shorter time frame, and they didn't anticipate the local issues that have occurred in terms of, they thought it would just whip through Denver in terms of licensing, and it really hasn't.
And what you're saying is that they have to work in tandem with the municipality licensing process, and so the states are waiting for the cities, and the cities are waiting for the state. Is that correct?
Well, the state can't issue the previous license until there's local approval, and so they're waiting on this. The state can't issue it until there's local approval, and so they're just waiting for local approval from Denver on a large number of them. But we're a fifth, a sixth. But Denver's not waiting on the state for anything. Well,
the state sent out all of those letters to dozens and dozens of licenses saying, go ahead and pay up.
Mm-hmm.
And from that number, that's where they got this $600,000. But that still wasn't enough. That there was something like 14% of the letters that they issued had actually paid, and
mm-hmm.
this was maybe a month ago or so.
Well, because a lot of them don't have local licenses, so they're waiting to make sure that goes through.
Right.
But anyway, and we'll kind of see as that wraps up over the next 5-6 weeks, because it'll have to happen before July 1st.
And there's some rumors about the Med changing some policy.
Yeah, but I hate to talk about that until we get some more confirmation, because I would envision. I can't imagine Med would let the program continue without proper supervision. Because if there isn't proper supervision, I don't know why that wouldn't encourage the feds to roll in.
Right.
I mean, part of the back and forth has been that it's allegedly regulated seed to sale. And if it all of a sudden isn't, then it isn't. And that could affect the way they've been dealing with us. But that's all conjecture, too.
So let me ask you this. there's been an uproar, understandably, about utilizing the patient fee dollars to do anything other than pay for and educate and do things for patients. What's your feeling on the state reallocating dollars like that?
Well, it sucks. I mean, and it's wrong. I mean, and it wasn't what the voters approved. And we saw that, as we kind of were getting into and then went off on a tangent, that was reintroduced last week during the special session. That died a pretty quick death, which was interesting to see. Because, the DUID bill didn't die that quick a death. And part of the med bill that was particularly interesting was the $98,600 funding towards the patient tracking system. Now, we know that that's part of, I think it's actually technically part of 1084, but it hasn't gone into play because it has to get figured out and it has to get funded, and that's never happened. And this would have jump-started that, and that was pretty scary given the broad nature of it. But that did die and muck up whatever, Med is going to do now until they get funding. And one would expect at some point they just will get rebudgeted as well to try to determine how can we make this work.
So what are some things that you think...
No, wait, let's back up though, because when
sorry.
you were talking about the patient fund being rated, the unfortunate issue is it's happened before.
Right.
And when it was researched, there's precedent for that actually happening. And not to discourage it from being challenged, but it was a tough road to hoe if the legislature went through the proper administrative policies in terms of reallocating that to somewhere else.
And what was it used for previously?
I think it was just thrown into the general fund back when, if I remember correctly.
I think it was a year
ago. Because there was no med.
And it was...
No, it was 2 years ago, I think, because there was no med.
And it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.1 million out of the $5 million that they had, if I'm remembering correctly. And if someone remembers differently, please let us know. I also want to put out there that we've all in all the different shows. I'm going to switch gears if that's okay.
Okay.
Did you have some more news that you wanted to cover before I switch gears?
No, not really, because again, New Jersey sits there kind of churning out a few things here and there. We did had some progress in New Hampshire this week, but the governor is claiming he is going to veto it. There was some... I thought he was
going to sit on it and not do anything, and then it became...
Pocket veto, same difference.
Okay, and so what that means for those of us that
No, they didn't have enough votes to make it become law.
Okay.
It wasn't pocket veto proof. So he can sit on it, meaning not sign it, so it gets vetoed because he doesn't sign it. And if it had gotten enough votes, that would override, but I don't think they ever got that. We saw, as we've talked about previously, Connecticut pass its kind of sort of not really bill. And
sort of if you're a pharmacist,
Michigan is doing its thing, and it looks like through the legislature they're potentially adopting some version of 1084, that kind of thing. We'll see. The devil's always in the details, which come oftentimes after.
Oh, that's where she is.
The legislation.
She's in the details.
She must be. Hey, I don't want to know who that is. We saw, Oregon, the Attorney General race go quite nicely. We
talked to Lee Berger a few weeks ago, who was telling us a little bit about the interesting Attorney General's race, and they had their election on May 7th, and I shouldn't say the election because it was all mail-in, and they counted the votes on May 7th, and the candidate
won, and so that was a positive thing, and that there will be no election now because there's no one running against her. And we wait on 502 and 64 and see if we can get the signatures and some of the other things here in Colorado.
What about D.C., Warren?
Well, D.C. what's got a couple going. It looks like, not going, but, we know from previous reports they've been approved. Looks like one might actually open from recent reports.
I want to say it was herbal alternatives or something herbal,
yes,
and something alternative. And
of course, Arizona's taking applications.
Have they done that before? In terms of its
businesses. Partly, but now they're really doing it. And so that's kind of the latest of a whole lot of nothing.
I don't know. I mean, yes, that's nothing. I still think it's pretty exciting.
We're up to 17 states, even if Connecticut kind of sucks.
You know what? I mean, I agree. It's written in a way that seems to be a setup for failure, and for that I'm disappointed.
Well,
however,
so it's not our regular, our regular listeners don't know, because I bitch and moan about this on a constant basis. It was nice to see Connecticut pass some medical marijuana legislation, but the problem is what they wrote. The folks that are allowed to distribute it have to be pharmacists. And unfortunately, pharmacists can't distribute medical marijuana as long as it remains Schedule 1. And yeah, unless it gets rescheduled, I'm not sure how anybody really plans on distributing it. So there'll be patients, so that's good. You'll need a doctor to sign, but then you'll need to purchase off the black market. Because uniquely in their system, it appears the caregivers can't actually create it themselves.
Yeah, which is strange to me, but I don't
yeah,
know,
they seem like glorified delivery boys, and I'm sorry for putting it that way, but that seems what it is in a quick reading.
Why would a grow your own be banned? Are people worried about home grows?
Well, again, this came through the legislative process. Yeah, I mean, people are worried about home grows. They're worried about grows not in industrial settings. This has some very strict rules in terms of who can grow and where they can grow, and getting a license to grow. As you know, I think we went into it in detail, but it was just the problem appears to be with the actual distribution aspect of
Right.
that, and that it actually uses the term pharmacist. So.
Right. It's interesting to me, but I will say, I mean, it's another state, and hopefully some changes can be made to make that actually viable. I'm so intrigued by DC. I'm so intrigued by the whole concept of here you are in the District of Columbia opening a medical marijuana dispensary.
Well, and I don't know how. I mean, not to get in too much of I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill. But I try to wrap my brain around the idea that our federal government and our House of Representatives and Senate had to approve this, because they actually run that little thing called the District of Columbia.
I think that's really important to explain to our viewers that don't know that our federal government governs D.C.
So it's cool with them that it's in their district. But meanwhile, we'll send the DEA out and our little minions to harass the businesses out there. But, I mean, that's what's happening. And again, another one of those you can't write this stuff things. But
I was feeling like, probably a year ago, I was feeling like at the point in time that our 7-year-old becomes 17, that he will laugh at prohibition and it never existed. I'm not feeling as optimistic, despite the fact that we have more states. I'm just not feeling as optimistic. I mean, we have these states that have had these laws in place that have never been enacted.
hopefully we can keep you in state and you won't be shipped to Leavenworth.
Oh, yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, that would.
It's humid in Kansas, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that would suck.
But the Royals, you can still.
That's right.
Not too bad. Where's Greg? We need him to save us because this.
I know.
Well.
He'll have some happy news. Well, we're going to take a break and pay some bills and thank some of our sponsors. As you guys know, I am particularly fond of our friends at No Dough Urban Garden Supply, downtown Denver's finest hydroponic and organic supply center. Located at 1330 27th Street in Denver. That's about 4.5 blocks northeast of Coors Field. You can visit them at NoDough.UrbanGardenSupply.com. NoDough, N-O-D-O, UrbanGardenSupply.com. Give them a ring at 303-296-3424. Serving the needs of a commercial and hobby cultivator. Come see our friend Levi for fresh in-store brewed compost tea free for our customers. Go visit our friend Levi. As you know, he does a monthly grow spot for us, and next week Levi will be here. That's No Dough Urban Garden Supply, downtown Denver's finest hydroponic and organic supply center. We'll be right back.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. Runongrass.com.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
Hi, I'm Rick Cusick from High Times Magazine, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to iCannabis Radio with Georgia and Amy, sans the Amy part. And we are here with our good friend Greg Daurer, who has been a historian of marijuana and the cannabis movements and hemp for a gajillion years. And as always, Greg, it's wonderful to have you.
Well, thank you, Georgia. Thanks for having me on the show, and I hope we provide some interesting stuff tonight, some fun stuff as well as some maddening stuff.
It's all kind of maddening.
Yeah,
so
it is maddening.
I'm excited for fun stuff, too. So what do you bring for us tonight?
Well, you know, years ago I started collecting articles from the Rocky Mountain News and Denver Post and other local publications about the history of marijuana out here. And I know I'm not the only person who's done that. I'd like to give a little shout out to Uncle Mike Gibbons, who's done very similar, if perhaps even more, I'd have to say certainly more comprehensive research than myself, but it was fun doing. I wrote a paper on it one time about how reefer racism in Colorado helped lead to national prohibition, because we had laws against marijuana out here before the federal legislation against marijuana went into effect and put people in jail for it. And we had the first penalties under U.S. law out here in October of 1937. So the first penalties in the United States federally were imposed in Denver in 37.
Isn't that sort of ironic considering where we are right now?
Yes, it is. It is. But it also shows that Colorado has always been, shall we say, receptive to marijuana as far as people indulging in it.
We suffered the longest.
We suffered the longest,
right.
We were fighting over the issue for quite a while. and real conflict. I mean, the first penalties being handed out, we had Harry Inslinger, the first drug czar, you might say, come out to
Am I allowed to call him an ass?
come out to Denver
And
for
yeah,
the penalties.
closer, right back, right there. Stop.
No, back, no, forward, no,
Yep, stop. Perfect.
All right, there he is. He's in Denver. He's glad to see the first penalties taking place. But, you know, there was always this narrative in the newspapers then about marijuana infecting the community, especially the youth. It would make a criminal out of them. You would rob, rape, and kill because of it. And it was inflicted on good, standing people by foreigners. That was always the narrative.
What does that mean?
Well, it means there was a lot of
People from Canada.
people from Canada.
People from
yeah.
Wyoming.
Yep. Friggin' Canucks.
Well, it means that people from Mexico were used to it in their culture much more than white society was in Colorado at that time, although it was still prescribed in pharmacies probably.
So they're blaming the Mexicans.
Absolutely. In 1920...
God, we still haven't come far from that, have we?
Not too far, no. In
No, it's part of the
1929...
legislative history of our recent stuff that they were still blaming the Mexicans.
Right.
Well, it's always a motif today that minorities are still arrested at a higher rate than white people are for the crime, shall we say, of smoking marijuana or possessing
The
it.
crime.
Yeah.
Air
Well,
quotes.
there was such egregious language and misinformation about marijuana back from the 20s through the 30s that I wanted to share some of it
Sure.
with you. And one of the first articles about a new bill being mandated in Colorado, being tossed about the legislature, was in 1929, which would amended bill hits traffic in marijuana. State Senate passes measure making second offense a state felony. And here's why it's necessary, in case you were wondering. Such legislation is necessary, Val Higgins, a Denver city chaplain and advocate of the bill, said. The use of marijuana came to the state with the Mexicans migrating here for agricultural work. Its use is growing because of the increasing numbers of Mexicans.
Thank God for the Mexicans.
And the ease with which most of them have been able to avoid penalties. Last year, the seasonal Mexican migration was 4,500. This year, it's to be 6,500.
So they're saying that migrant workers came here to work and brought the marijuana.
And Greg, what was the date and the source of that article?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up again. Again, this was the Rocky Mountain News, March 27th, 1929. And to give you a national context of what was going on at the time, do you know what was on the front page of the newspaper the same day?
What?
It says billions lost as stocks crash in Wall Street.
Yeah.
So stocks
Start-
are crashing,
start
but
of the Depression.
we're worried about Mexicans and marijuana.
Well, here we are. I mean, again, history repeats itself. Here we are in 2012, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be in 1929.
The stocks aren't crashing. The economy has.
Right. Well,
It's the weirdest thing.
the stocks crashed not too long ago, and
So the
people
seven
left-
people that own all the stocks,
Right.
they,
Right.
they've got us worried about the Mexicans spraying marijuana. But then it doesn't help that they're piling up bodies without heads down there. So, but that's a whole nother
Well,
debate.
I mean, certainly there has been a lot in the news about Mexican cartels taking out people who post against them in Facebook and those kinds of things. And who knows what's true and not true. But
Visit Mazatlan.
But right. But what we
See.
know to not be true is the Mexicans were not the first to smoke marijuana in Colorado.
Well, and I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of Mexican weed being sold in MMCs right now in Colorado, but that's just my guess.
Right. Being that it's virtually impossible to do that.
But
Yeah.
anyway, what else you got there,
Sorry,
Greg?
Greg.
'Cause we
Thank
can
you.
bore
Oh
people
no,
further.
I was, it's a horrible situation going on in Mexico, and Latin American leaders are talking about changes in drug policy to kind of correct some of the craziness that prohibition has brought about, and I hope we can increase the dialogue and actual action in the years ahead. But the next one I wanted to bring up was from the New York Times, and this is in September of 1934. And I almost swear to God, the first two paragraphs of this, it says special correspondence to the New York Times. It doesn't say who wrote it, but I would almost. It's almost straight out of the first drug czar, Harry Anslinger. We saw his face against the camera a minute ago. This is almost straight out of his writing style. And here we get into our Reefer Madness voice again. Denver, September 13th. Although as appalling in its effects on the human mind and body as narcotics, the consumption of marijuana appears to be proceeding virtually unchecked in Colorado and other western states with a large Spanish-American population. The drug is particularly popular with Latin Americans, and its use is rapidly spreading to include all classes. The poisonous weed, which maddens the senses and emaciates the body of the user, is being sold more or less openly in pool halls and beer gardens throughout the West and Southwest. And according to some authorities, it is being peddled to school children. The federal government is powerless to stop the traffic, officials of the Narcotic Bureau say, because marijuana was left out of the Harrison Act, under which the Bureau gets its authority to stop traffic in opium and its derivatives.
Wait, that was John Walsh said that last weekend?
Exactly what I was thinking. Wow, did that just happen?
Well, what's cool, too, is now we have beer gardens again in Denver. Because didn't that open, that opened last weekend or this weekend? And
I'm sure that some people in the beer gardens have weed, too. So.
Oh, man. Well, I'm sure there are, medical marijuana centers somewhere over there near Stapleton.
Is there a medical marijuana near Stapleton?
There might be. But I'm
But
not
what about
going
the
there.
children?
I'm not outing anybody. I know, all those
Well,
Stapleton
it's not
children
just
need weed.
It's not just the children, Georgia, because it says at the end of this article, the weed's toxic qualities are not confined to men, but have equally deleterious effect on animals. Kin to the loco weed, marijuana, when mixed with hay, causes death to the horses that eat it.
So don't mix it with hay.
Yeah,
Just straight up weed.
First of all, if your medicine smells like weed or smells like hay,
curing issues.
Yeah,
I've heard that now over and over and over again.
You've got some curing problems. And who on earth is wasting their good marijuana by mixing it with hay?
That's
Hopefully
a good
not
question.
giving it to the horses in the 16th Street Mall either.
Well, that would explain a lot about the horses
Maybe
on the
they
16th
were
Street
cutting
Mall.
the weed back then with hay, and the horses got into it because they were doing it in a barn or something. I don't know. Trying to sell half weed.
Who was
half
cutting
hay.
the hay into the weed?
Oh.
That should have been the crime.
That is
Should
a
have
crime.
been. Right.
I mean, again, I think what is striking me so much today is this really is last week's news.
Yeah.
It is, and you haven't seen nothing
From 60 years ago.
Because keep going, Greg.
70 years
'cause
ago.
there's good
Oh,
stuff.
there's other stuff too. Yeah, December 30th, 1934. This is the Rocky Mountain News. Here's what we find out: marijuana growing wild in Denver's front yards. And you know how we know this?
Wait, how old was Doreen then?
That was her backyard.
Hey!
Who? No,
Yeah.
never mind. Well, here's how we know this. The revelation that marijuana is growing wild in front yards of Denver homes was made yesterday by a Mexican in municipal court. That's how we know it. Chavez denied, though, having obtained the marijuana from Mexico. Quote, "I can get it
What was going
any
in the
time
yard?
I want from the banks of the Platte River," he boasted, "and I've picked it from front yards of houses along Federal
Wait,
Boulevard."
Chris, there's still time left in the show. You have to stay here. You can't leave yet.
Federal
Chris was like, I gotta go.
Where the Platte crosses Federal. But wait. Okay, we got.
Wait, I've run there before. I can almost guarantee there's a whole lot of stuff there. There is no marijuana growing. None.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
I can
for
tell you where
sale,
there is marijuana growing, but it's not along the banks of the
yeah,
Platte.
that.
Well,
Oh my gosh.
but in front yards along Federal Boulevard.
In Colorado,
In
right.
Nebraska, that's another story.
Maybe Nebraska. Oh my gosh. So really, there was. You're right. This is so racist.
Yeah, it is.
This is so racist.
Again, we're told by the news on my birthday, 1936. So this is a little early. No, this one's 30.
Greg was not born in
4.
1936. He
So
means
36.
the day, not his actual date.
It's habit-forming marijuana grown in great quantities in Colorado.
Again, that was from last week.
It's.
Does it have a picture of the drivetrain building?
It is
Yeah.
a picture of someone who looks crazily like Stephen D'Angelo.
They toned down the.
Really?
They
Hey,
toned,
show the camera. You got to show the camera.
This is-
After Georgia says that.
This,
oh my gosh.
this guy looks a lot like Steve D'Angelo.
Oh, who's
Yeah.
this? Oh, C.A. Gutierrez.
No, it doesn't.
Sure it does. It's got a... It's
He's
o-
like-
other side.
Old. We got it. We got it. It does not.
Funny hat, the tie.
No.
Come on.
Anyway.
Ish.
Stevie D.
Stevie D-ish.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Okay, I don't. I think I'm right.
Well, they've toned down the language, so the weed's being promiscuously sold to
But it's
youths in the
promiscuous.
poorer districts of Denver.
It's...
That's how they say it now.
That's what Albus told Georgia last weekend.
Well,
So,
you know what's
so-
changed? What has this prohibition changed?
Well, Georgia's got to go for a run with him. He keeps inviting her,
Yeah.
and she won't go.
Can I go?
Yes, you may.
Now, mind you, around this time, marijuana was not only grown in Colorado, it was exported. It was going to the east. Supposedly, the marijuana from Colorado was primo compared to other parts of the country.
And that's changed how?
Yep,
Despite the fact it was mixed with hay.
that's right.
Well, they had to cut it. It was freaking those New Yorkers out, so they needed to cut it back, man.
New Yorkers couldn't handle it.
Because in 37, a bumper crop of marijuana was maturing in Colorado. So in a few months, the federal laws are going to go into effect. But here, we're finding out in 1937 that enough marijuana known to addicts and peddlers as, quote, weed, hay, grifo. That's one of my favorite all time. Yeah, I love grifo. And a dozen
How come
other
you don't have a
disguising
band?
terms.
How come you never had a band called Grifo?
Why isn't that
One
the
of
name of a
these days.
show?
Yeah.
Why is it not a dispensary?
Well, there's enough
Kinda
growing
gross.
in Colorado to make an entire city virtually go berserk.
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 Yeah, that's so reefer
Cool.
madness. You're gonna go berserk.
You're gonna go berserk.
What city? Commerce City?
I think there's a strain called berserk.
Whatever. It's a
Berserker.
good video game.
Denver Post, Daily Record reiterates this the same day. It's going for $85 a pound in the East. Or out here. Oh, wait a minute.
$85 a pound. Well, of
Yeah.
course, it's
and
really
5
not a pound.
cents
It's,
a cigarette.
it's half hay, so.
Yeah.
I wonder what $85 in 1937, how that would equate to today's dollar. Probably
We'll get the crack reporter right on it.
probably $85 based on our economy right now.
Math.
I don't know, can't you Google something like that?
Yeah. There's probably some
Calculator, some kind of
app.
Yeah.
So what else you got, Greg? Where's
Oh, well, we're, again, just
are
a
we
few
in-
months from Prohibition, but we've got...
Where's the headline about the inspectors? Have we missed that, or is that
It's
coming
still
up?
coming up.
Okay, sorry.
We've got Colorado Department waging winning fight upon marijuana.
Med.
Yeah. This is 1930s. This was Colorado's own, I think, under the health department, fighting the marijuana plague, as they call it here. But here's the great subheadline. It says, new agency battles to destroy narcotic that leads to eventual insanity after making beasts of its victims.
Whoa.
What was the date of that, and what was it, the Chronicle, and what's the Chronicle?
August 6th, 1937. And I think this was the Denver Post.
Denver Post? Cool.
Yep. It says, the cautioning hands of civilized inhibitions are jerked away to give free rein to the basic and often bestial desires. Under the influence of marijuana, a man is no better than a beast, worst in fact, because he retains the cunning of the human mind. Those who have idly dreamed of, quote, getting even, unquote, with their enemies suddenly find themselves in a murderous pitch of hate. Those who have vaguely coveted women are now plunged into a frenzy of desire that often ends in rape. So,
Well, but for the rape part, some of that's true. Hey, our crack reporter, we got breaking news.
You do.
Because he got online, and $85, what was it, a pound?
$85 a pound.
In 1937 is the equivalent of $1,370.15 in 2012.
Wow. Very
Wow,
well
that's
done.
good.
Okay. Miss, what roughly would
For
the...
wholesale prices, so that's about, wholesale prices right now are about $2,500 a pound.
Okay.
So 50% of that.
Yep.
Now, I've got to show you the photo.
It's because it was growing on the Platte River.
Well, it's because it was cut with hay, so it was
No,
only half.
that's true, that's
so the prices are the same. So everything one that says the prices have skyrocketed,
Well-
the prices are the same if you consider the fact that there's no hay involved in the
So
product
was
you
it
get
the
now.
hay driving everybody berserk and
It was
raping
the
women?
hay.
It was the loco weed that was in the hay.
So we have to take a quick break
Oh, yeah.
before we get on to the rest of the craziness that was happening in the 30s/2000 decade.
I want to remind the listeners that these are like real live, not onion stories, as Greg's indicating. These are real live headlines and stories from newspapers in Colorado and across the country as to the insanity that was going on then that continues to this day.
Yep,
Anyway,
absolutely.
sell
Like-
some stuff.
Good
We'd like
point.
Good point. Thank our friends at Medical Marijuana of the Rockies. They do not sell any hay there. They're your mountain source for meds, the best clones or immature plants, really, in the entire state. Check them out at mmrockies.com, mmedicalmarijuanarockies.com, for their plant selection and an ever-changing list of the strains that are available. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 6:45 p.m. Make sure you get there by 6:45 so that you can actually make a purchase. They're located 1 minute off of I-70 at exit 203 in Frisco. Go to the third stoplight, make a right, and an immediate left into the parking lot next to Carlos Miguel's Mexican restaurant, which I need to go have some guacamole. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, it's worth the drive for the mountains, and the clones are a bonus. Check them out at mmrockies.com. We'll be right back.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706. Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Cusick from High Times Magazine, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio.
Hi, welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to The Cure with Georgia and Amy. Heavy on the Georgia, light on the Amy tonight. And we have been talking to our friend Greg Daurer about what the local journalists have been writing about marijuana in the 20s and 30s.
That's correct. Journalists will use that with a
Right.
You
Air
know.
quotes again. I
Air
like those.
quotes, yeah. Journalists. Because what horrible
Liars,
propa-
pants on fire.
propaganda. I mean, we were just talking about that article about it turning users into beasts from 1937. And this is the photo caption: "Dynamite that blasts souls." There it is.
Why?
There it is. Dynamite that blasts souls.
Are you suggesting that a big reason why this propaganda was happening was because of how racist people were, and assumed that because they were so hateful towards people from Mexico, that they assumed that smoking marijuana, an activity that they're attributing to the Mexicans, must be so horrible that they have to say all of these absolutely blasphemous, lying, terrible things?
Well, that certainly accounts for a lot of it, I think. But I think they're just also gearing up to divert some funds, to their agency, and create new jobs by starting up a prohibition. They were trying to. I think they were using reports from Denver and other places to gear up nationally to enact a federal prohibition. That's my feeling.
Because, the purpose would be...
Well, I think it expanded the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, which was the drug czar Harry Anslinger's domain.
He was a butthead.
Yeah, I think that's the reason. I could be wrong. There's been other suggested reasons why it's happened, and I examine those and I keep those in mind. But that's what these articles seem to indicate to me. Because in Denver there was marijuana, sure, plenty of the stuff in 1937. A reporter walks into, this is almost a joke. A reporter walks into a Larimer Street bar
and says,
exactly, and says, "Here we go. This is what he says. Where can we get some weed right away? We're musicians from Omaha. We don't know this town." So the guy says, "Any place," and he waves his arm around. He said, "You can get it anywhere around here." That's what he meant. And
wow.
There was a lot going on Larimer Street back in those days in the 30s. A lot of marijuana.
There's some marijuana there now.
There is. But again, it's a big problem because, again, they're claiming that it's, this is the headline, marijuana American hashish. School children buy drug. This is from August 1937. And it does say in here that Colorado is considered the marijuana growers' paradise by growers from other sections of the country. There's supposed to be something, this is almost like a critic talking. There's supposed to be something about the climate and minerals in the soil in this state conducive to growing the best grade of the drug.
Wow. Well, and that was obviously outdoor and now indoor.
Right. Well, it says in Chicago, for example, marijuana supposedly from Colorado brings a better price than Iowa or Nebraska product.
I can imagine it's better than Iowa.
Because in Colorado, except for the stuff you got mixed with hay, they were growing it to be marijuana. And in Iowa and Kansas and such, it was probably Nebraska. It was probably ditchweed.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It's probably ditchweed. There's no THC in that. It's all CBDs, so it's like, yeah.
But as we're gearing up again towards national prohibitions, just a few months away, they keep up the fear. Marijuana seed on sale in stores. State moves to stop practice. U.S. action near, because people are buying the marijuana seeds in wholesale seed supply places.
And again, history just repeats itself again as the Med determines that the only time you can sell seeds as a medical marijuana center is if you grow them yourself. So history has repeated itself again.
Yeah, well, these seeds, I think they were probably hemp seeds.
Right.
You want to grow some hemp? Yeah, we've got hemp seeds, but it's a marijuana seed on sale in stores. That's what they're saying. And before there was a national prohibition, the State Board of Health cracked down on growers. And I showed this article to Warren, and he especially thought it was funny. It says, "Inspectors get no guns." Remember how we had Chris Romer saying, we're going to have inspectors with guns? Well, back in 1937, the State Executive Council, people in the legislature, I'm assuming, said, heck no, we don't want inspectors with guns. And when the State Executive Council turned them down, they walked out of the room. They didn't want to deal with these cops complaining about not having guns. This is what the state treasurer said, quote, "We don't want any standing armies in the state."
Huh.
Quite different than today. Well, we'll arm, anybody, the meter maid with a gun in case there's a marijuana crime in the vicinity, it seems like.
Yeah, it's intimidating. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So as we're gearing up to national prohibition, it's only a month away. U.S. to aid Rocky Mountain states fight marijuana. Law will bring government agents in battle against criminal making weed. Again, see, criminal making weed. It makes you a criminal. And it says here again, they're toning down the language. It says certain areas of the Rocky Mountain states where there is a concentration of laborers from outside the United States have been troubled for years in trying to curb the use of the narcotic weed peddled largely in the form of cigarettes.
Translated, the
It's
Mexicans
the
are
Mexicans,
smoking
yeah.
the marijuana.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, really, what a history, huh? And again, we're told by the Post on October 3rd that the new national prohibition was enacted, and 5 days later, they're reporting about the first busts under new federal law in Denver newspapers. The first two are convictions under the new 1937 Marijuana Tax Act. Here in Colorado, which our first drug czar came all the way from Washington, D.C., Mr. Harry Anslinger, to witness the convictions.
He's a jerk. Did I mention that?
Yeah.
He was a jerk.
It's
was a jerk.
It seems like
he was a jerk.
It's almost like they picked Colorado to have all this stuff. It was like the test market. Here's where it's going to happen. We're going to have the first bus come down out here because it's like shooting fish in a barrel, and we'll get a good photo op and send it off across the wires.
Make sure that people are scared and they know how to behave.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
So
Greg,
a crazy history, huh, Georgia?
it is a crazy history, and
It
as
is.
always, I love your history lessons. I mean, it's funny on one hand, and it's prophetic a little bit, and then downright sad.
Yes, it is. I agree with you. It's also infuriating that we still have people making such kind of crazy claims about marijuana to this day. I'm sure you'll still hear that marijuana causes people to become criminals, or, we're hearing that nationally because of certain national cases taking place now. The child had marijuana in his blood, so he must have been a crazed lunatic looking to hurt somebody. So there we are
Absolutely.
today.
Well, as always, Greg, so interesting and so fascinating. And if you guys have any questions, if you want more information, please don't hesitate to contact us on iCannabis Radio, and we will make sure Greg is able to answer your questions. We're going to take our final break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. Runongrass.com.
The law offices of Edson, Mayton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. Runongrass.com.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to The Cure with George and Amy. I'm Georgia.
I'm not Amy.
and we'd like to thank our friend Greg Daurer for his fascinating history lesson again. The reporters have historically written some crazy ass stuff about cannabis, and that's nothing new. I think Greg's take on the racist aspect is pretty true. I mean, not only nowadays where we talk about the fact that people of color are overwhelmingly arrested more frequently than Caucasian males, for example, is the truth.
Yeah.
But clearly it comes from a place, in part at least, believing that these horrible other cultures are the cause of the scourge that is marijuana.
Right. And that marijuana causes crime. I thought that was funny. I thought it was the
marijuana
illegality.
being illegal is what causes it to be a crime. Doesn't that say over there, I'm not a criminal, no victim, no crime?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not a criminal, no victim, no crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is how I feel about prostitution too, but that's I think another show.
Yeah, that's a
Maybe
show
sex pot
tomorrow.
Show. Yeah.
Tomorrow night.
At 8.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a couple things. One is I've been playing with this card this evening, and do you want to explain a little bit about what the Colorado Medical Marijuana membership card is?
It is. They're a group of doctors that they're next door to us. They donated this to us. It's about a couple $1,000s worth of meds on there, actually, at different locations. So what you do is you get this card, you sign it, and you go into one of the many locations, like the clinic down the hall from us. You get $100 worth of credit. You buy $100, you get $100 worth of credit. And you can do that in increments of 50. So you spend $50, you get the $50 credit. And at the same time, you can save that credit for the next time you go in. So say you buy $50 worth and you don't want any more, you come in the next time, you don't have to pay anything. you get that $50 or $100. It just all depends on how you spend it.
And there's quite a few different medical marijuana centers that are listed on here.
Right.
Because they aren't paying for advertising, I'm not going to mention them.
Right. I mentioned them on another show before, all those people.
Good. So they can listen to another show.
Right.
So our sponsors won't get upset. But this is really wonderful, and we really want to thank the docs for donating this to us, and so we'd like to give it away, and the way that we're going to do that is
if you can tell us how much $85 from 1937 is worth today, post that on our Facebook wall, iCannabis Radio. If you don't like us, go like us right now and just post it up there. The first one who gets it wins. You have to have a red card though.
And you kind of have to live in Colorado.
And
Colorado. I mean, we'll send it to you, but it's not really going to mean much if you're in Rhode Island.
Might be memorable for somebody.
That's right.
Down the road, but think of somebody might need those meds as well.
That's right. That's right. That's pretty exciting. Speaking of needing meds, you had a situation this week that we wanted to talk a little bit about.
Yeah.
You have been experiencing what you believe to be an abscess tooth.
Right. Yeah. I have an abscess in my bottom jaw, and the pain was so bad that Friday night. Oops. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to the producing part. So I was out with Crunchy and the crew. We were gonna go hang out with Tommy Chong. Tried to on Friday night. And this tooth infection was just getting worse and worse, and my head was pounding, and it was just unbearable. Like, Crunchy couldn't even look at me how bad I was in pain. He was just like, "Do you want me to hit you with a hammer or something?" And so finally, Mel convinced me that I should go to the hospital. They dropped me off at the hospital at Denver General here in Denver, and I've got some meds with me. I don't have my paperwork with me because I'm a goofball and I don't do that. That's just my personal thing. So anyways, I go in and I have to go through a metal detector and get my things searched. I have my backpack. I mean, this is the first thing that he opened up, that compartment. Like, if he would have opened up another compartment, he would have found some dirty underwear, It's like, really, this is kind of crazy that I have to go through a metal detector and have the things searched to go get medical care. That's the first thing that kind of was like, okay, that was weird for me.
Well, and this is Denver General, and it's a level 2 or 3 trauma center. So all of the major gunshot wounds.
Right. Everybody goes
to this particular hospital.
Right. And so, like, I do understand that part, that there needs to be security for all the things that go on through there, the people that come through there. I understand that. It's just weird for me coming from a small town, going through security to go to a hospital.
Right.
So I realized that I'm going to get my stuff searched because they're opening it up, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be honest with you up front that I have some medical marijuana in there. And he's like, well, do you have your red card? I was like, no, I don't have it on me. He's like, well, I'm going to have to confiscate this. I was like, really? You're going to take my medicine so I can get other medicine for something that medicine is not helping with? He's like, yeah, because you are holding this illegally. I was like, okay, well, then I'm going to go someplace else that has compassionate care. And I go to grab my little jar that has like maybe a couple bowls worth in there, and he grabs it back. Like, he's not going to let me go with that. Like, he's going to let me go. I can go someplace else, but I can't have that, even though that's rightfully mine. I grabbed it out of his hand, and he looked shocked that somebody actually did that. And I said, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go someplace with compassionate care. And he kind of puffed himself up, and I said, don't. I'm leaving peacefully. Don't start anything. And I took it, I packed everything in my bag, and I walked out. I walked out, and I walked about a block down from the emergency room. If you're,
It's a big campus.
Yeah,
and
it's a
so
big campus.
Getting off property can take a little while.
Well, and when you go into this emergency room area, there's nowhere else out but this little this enclave place. So I'm walking along and I'm getting to around the block to where I'm out off of the campus, and a security guard in a security vehicle pulls up, and he gets out of his vehicle and he says, "Are you the one with marijuana?" I was like, "What?" I didn't deny or anything like
and
that.
are you Spanish too? Spanish and have marijuana.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, and that's another thing. I'm kind of really tan. I'm darker complected, dark hair, dark everything. And yeah, that plays into it, I bet, a little bit. But yeah, he goes, "Are you the one with marijuana?" I was like, "What?" He says, "Yeah, you're the one with marijuana, aren't you?" I looked at him and I said, "Are you a police officer? Are you an officer of the law?" He says, "Yes, I am, as a matter of fact." And so I get out my phone and make like I'm going to turn on my camera, and, I'm pretending, of course. Because there's just enough power in that, taking out your cell phone, And I pointed at him like I'm filming him, and I say, "Can you repeat that for me, that you're an officer of the law?" He didn't say anything, and he got in his vehicle and left.
Wow.
Left me to, do whatever. And I walked off, went and caught a bus, and went back home. And
do you think that he was trying to make sure that you were leaving the property? What was his intent, do you believe?
Oh, I think his intent was to try to take my marijuana. I think that was his total intent. And the intent was to threaten as well. I mean, there's no need for him. I wasn't yelling or screaming. I didn't go out of the building yelling or screaming. I do have a powerful voice, and especially when I feel like my liberty has been threatened, I get a little bit forceful in my voice. So I can understand inside the hospital when this guy was trying to take this from me, what was mine, that I might have gotten a little bit loud. But as I walked out, I didn't say nothing, anything. I just walked out and kept on walking. I grumbled to myself a little bit that I thought it was kind of, I was not compassionate at all. I think I made that point a few times to them.
It's interesting to me, on the heels of listening to the stories that Greg was telling from the 1930s, that there is still such a misinformation and feeling of danger somehow with someone who has marijuana.
Right.
Now, I have to say, I feel compelled to say,
right,
we're required to have our cards with us.
Right.
I mean, with the pleasure of being able to go to any number of stores any day of the week between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and purchase medical marijuana legally in the state of Colorado, we have to follow a few rules.
Right.
And one of them is our get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
And that's this nice red card with mountains on the back that has our name on it and those kinds of things. And so, I mean, I don't go anywhere without it.
Right.
And I don't even carry product.
Right.
But so, I mean, I just think that it probably would have been an easier situation for you, especially since they asked for it, had you carried, at a minimum, your physician's recommendation.
Right, yeah, and I admit that I should have had at least that, At the same time, I'm trying to go I'm getting dropped off, trying to hang out with Tommy Chong,
Right.
So, like, I'm not really, and I wasn't planning on going to the hospital, And
but you were carrying medical marijuana with you.
Right, and I should have, and I admit that. I totally admit that. At the same time, I think hospitals need to be a little bit more compassionate towards people like that.
I think the issue to me sort of is the confusion of why the security guard felt the need to take that from you.
Right.
I mean.
And do they even have that right? Do they have that right? I mean,
that's kind of a Warren question, but my opinion is, you walked into their private setting. And they can make a whole bunch of rules, because you can go anywhere you want,
Right.
as you did. You decided that you could go someplace else.
Right.
You chose to go someplace else.
Right.
However, we were talking earlier. I mean, I have a story of a cancer patient who was undergoing chemo, and in order to get himself through the chemo, he had a regimen of taking a hash pill prior to his chemo. So at the end of the 4 or 5 hours that it took, he wouldn't be violently ill. And so he had a situation where a nurse wanted to take his hash from him. And that actually ended really well. He got very upset, and his physician, his oncologist, came in and told her that she had no right to do that. However, that's not what happened to you, and I don't know if they thought that was somehow a threat, if based on again the type of people that go to this particular hospital, if they felt like it would somehow
Like
cause a dangerous situation. I don't know what was in their head, but carry your card.
Right. I even asked the guy. I was like, "Hey, can you just keep this here? I'm not trying to. I understand that you have people coming in here all the time trying to bring stuff in." I was like, "Can you just keep this here and keep my bag here until I'm done in the emergency room? Because right now I'm in a heck of a lot of pain from this tooth, and that's not helping it." So I don't know. The first guy didn't bother me so much. It was the second guy. The second guy, that just it really kind of torqued me, and with my experience with authority figures, and I use air quotes.
'Cause we love air quotes.
Yeah, because they're really good to see on the radio.
Yeah, exactly. When the camera's on me.
Yeah, when the camera's on you. My experience with like police officers and things, and the fact that he said he was a police officer when he clearly was not on duty. Yeah, he wasn't. He might have been. This might have been his second job. His part-time job. Police officer during the day, security guard at night. Pays the bills. But if you're not on duty, it doesn't matter. That
Don't
badge,
represent yourself that way.
Yeah, that badge is just a badge. Just because you're a cop doesn't mean you can just say you're a cop all the time, and that you're a cop all the time, and your word is authority all the time. No.
I'm just really curious, had I been there instead of you, how that situation may have been different.
Right.
Even if I didn't have my card on me, I'm curious
Right.
how that situation would have been different. You are a male.
Right.
You are a darker skinned male.
Right.
You're a big guy.
Right.
I'm just curious.
I'm a big bad Mexican drug dealer
You are
with a half a joint's worth of cannabis.
That's the other thing that's kind of interesting. I don't know. It just what we learned today is as much as things change is as much as they stay the same.
Right. Yeah, history repeats itself.
It does.
Chicago is showing that right now.
That's right.
67.
Exactly.
That's all I gotta say.
Exactly. And we're going to repeat ourselves next week when The Cure will be on again at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And we are going to have our friend Levi from Noto Urban Garden Supply do his grow segment. So if you have grow questions, thoughts, or ideas, conversations you want to have with Levi, don't hesitate to contact us on our webpage, iCannabisRadio.com, and on our Facebook page, iCannabisRadio. And let us know any questions that you have, and we'll pose those to Levi. Would like to let you know what else is coming up on iCannabis Radio this week. Tomorrow night, Sexpot Radio, 8 p.m. It's going to be pretty amazing. Those girls always have a heck of a time, but they're going to be talking a little bit about marriage and how people feel about marriage, and as well as what turns you on late at night. I just have to, I think I'll tune in for sure. Wednesday on the Thunderdome. Grab my cheat sheet.
Oh.
Wednesday on the Thunderdome, they are going to talk about their Thunder Garden and potato tires. They're actually growing potatoes in stacks of tires. Rather than growing them into the ground, they're growing up. It's really kind of fascinating. And they're also going to talk about the Farm Bill. If this Farm Bill passes, it's going to cut the funding for food stamps pretty dramatically. So check into the Thunderdome at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. On Thursday evening, our friends Elisa and Stickman will be doing Overgrow the Radio, as is always. And they have the girls from Sexpot Radio on.
Yeah.
It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild.
Overgrow the sex pot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, Thunder Sex, that was pretty cool, and Crunchy was on Sexpot. So
Right.
Trying to
at the
think of a
Cannabis Cup.
hybrid name for it.
Exactly. They're also going to have Matt Moorman from the Colorado Springs Medical Cannabis Council to help recap on all that's been going on there. And the following week, Mason Tavert will be on to discuss what's going on with 64, as well as talking about Elisa's trial coming up.
And I think that Jason, Stickman, Crunchy, and I are all going to be broadcasting from Elisa's trial.
Bob's trial.
From Bob's trial. Yeah,
yes.
on the 4th of June.
Yes,
so
we are going to try to make that work for sure. Henry Hemp will also be on Overgrow this coming week. So don't miss any of those shows. I'd like to thank our sponsors, our friends at Mile High Wellness, Hi Jenny, Noda Urban Garden Supply, Edson Mate and Mats, Medical Marijuana The Rockies, Mile High Wellness, Medical Marijuana 101, and Run on Grass, as well as our friends at MMD of Colorado. Thank you so much for listening, and happy birthday, Aim. We'll eat your cupcakes. See you guys next week.